This past weekend, the Heel Tough blog got a chance to sit down with former North Carolina Tar Heels quarterback and current Florida International quarterback coach Bryn Renner.
What was your time at Carolina like, and what are some of the main memories that kind of stick out to you?
Yeah, I thought it was the best experience, going back, and if you look at, when I enrolled as a freshman in 2009 in that summer, and, with Coach Davis and everything like that, and kind of just getting going when I was a freshman playing baseball, and redshirted my first year and going through that, I thought it was the best experience I could have ever asked for. I love that, I can always call Carolina home and be a Tar Heel for life and bleed Carolina blue. It was a great experience, and when you make a decision at 18 years old and with your family around, your support system, you make that decision and you really don't know, how it's going to go and how it's going to transpire. But I couldn't have asked for a better, 5 years spent at Carolina, and I hold it dearest to my heart. And going through the whole process as a freshman, and then going sophomore year, and then starting, sophomore year, and then going junior and senior year, and going with Coach Fedora, and kind of just going through a lot of off the field issues, but kind of keeping the stable base of the Carolina foundation. I think that's what really I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. And obviously the games are great, but people don't really remember the games. They remember your career of how you dealt with adversity. And I think our whole class of the 09 class and even the 08 class, the guys that graduated and stuck it out the whole way, I think those are my closest friends. Even the Gio Bernards, who was my roommate, and Russell Bodine and Dwight Jones and Robert Quinn, who I saw yesterday. Those are the friendships and the brotherhood that you kind of keep as you go through this journey. So it was an unbelievable 5 years, and I'm like I said, I'm very proud I can call myself a Tar Heel forever.
Yeah, so, I mean, you mentioned that you were there for 5 years. In that time, you had 3 different coaches. How tough was it kind of to adjust, to each coach? You had gotten set to what Coach Davis had wanted, then he ends up having what happened to him, and then Everett Withers takes over, and then, 1 year with him, and then Larry. So how tough was it to kind of, shift gears each time that a new coach came in?
I think it taught, all of us, and I think I can speak for everybody that was kind of involved with it, to grow up pretty quickly. You had to answer to the media, you had to answer the questions, kind of internally that you had of, you paint this picture, like I said, of, Carolina, just the Carolina culture and the Carolina foundation, and we really stuck true to it. I think dealing with the 3 coaches, to answer your question, it taught me, a lot of leadership ability that I had to have and grow up pretty quickly. To keep the focus, the goal of, putting the best product on the field and bringing everybody along with you, with the off the field distractions that we kind of had, was really something that I still use to this day, of, eliminating distractions, eliminating, the outside noise of not knowing who the coach is and adjusting to different offenses, different defenses, different ways to run a program. I think it's taught me a lot about myself and dealing with adversity at a young age, and dealing with, being a leader and trying to hold, trying to be the glue to hold everything together. So I thought all 3 were very different in different ways, but they all 3 taught me different things. With Coach Davis, that's why I committed there, and that's why I'm back here at FIU with him, because it was just such a special time. Those 3 years we spent with him. And then, even with Coach Withers, I thought he did a great job of keeping us together and keeping, the main goal of, hey, you came here to play college football, and why not go win some football games? And unfortunately, he was let go, and then Larry comes in, and Coach Fedora did a great job, on the back end of my career, junior and senior year, when I played a lot of football and kind of understanding what we needed and kind of what we needed the junior and senior year to put a good product on the field, like I said. But it was a lot of fun. The great times that you had in the locker room, and even winning games. In 2012, we won the Coastal Division title, and people kind of forget that, but it was a special time for us, as players. And then 13, unfortunately I got hurt, but they still stuck it together. And I think Marquise did a great job of, taking us to a bowl game when we didn't start out so hot. So I think that's what's fun. And then you look back and what the culture is built now, the Mitch Trubisky's that I helped recruit, the Ryan Switzers, the Mac Hollands, and you look back and you can watch games now and reflect and still call those guys friends that you recruited or you were part of their lives. Looking back, and I'm 28 now, and you can always call those guys friends, and you really look back at those times and what you got through and what you went through, and really nothing affects you in the real world now.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about it, going, after your sophomore season, then Larry comes in, and it was kind of awesome to see, after your sophomore season, you never threw more than one interception in a single game. Was that something that you really sort of focused on going into that junior off season to try to sort of cut down on the turnovers?
Absolutely. I think when, you mentioned when my sophomore year, that was my first year starting, and I don't even know if people know this. I was playing on a broken ankle. I broke it, in the summertime just running hills.
Wow.
And, I had bone spurs in my foot and ended up, playing on it and having to fight through that adversity. But I really harped on, hey, I don't want to turn the ball over to cost the team to cost our team, put ourselves in a bad situation where we can't go and win the game. And I think that's always kind of been something that as a quarterback I've thought about, but I really didn't emphasize until that summer going into my junior year. I was costing the team, I think I don't even know, 13 picks, I think, my sophomore season, and then eliminated that to 7 or somewhere around those lines. But I didn't want to put the ball in jeopardy, and I think that comes with repetitions. I started as a sophomore, started 12 games, and, I played well, and my completion percentage was good, and I think Coach Shoup did a great job with me of teaching the fundamentals of quarterback. And then Coach Anderson really kind of took it over and said, hey, you can be a better player if you just, eliminate the interceptions. So I really took that to heart, and I think Larry did a good job of instilling that into me. Hey, it's okay to punt. It's okay to put the ball in situations where, I trusted my arm strength, when I was a young player because you don't know any better. But once you get the reps and see different blitzes and see different ways that you can eliminate mistakes, and I think that really helped our team. And I really took that to heart, even in the summertime in the leadership role. And a lot of the receivers helped me too. They made great plays, and offensive line protected really, really well throughout my entire career. And I was fortunate to have one of the best offensive lines, ever at Carolina. 5 starters going to the NFL and the chance to play, including myself. And then having receivers go playing with one of the best running backs to ever come to the university. I think that was really cool. And so those guys helped me of, hey, man, you don't have to do it all. You can kind of check it down to a good running back and throw it to a good receiver. That helps a lot too.
Well, your sophomore year wasn't all that bad. You had the James Madison game, which could be the most memorable game of your career. You went 22 of 23. At what point in that game did you realize that, hey, this is something special's happening right now?
That was a little kid. You're getting your first start at home in front of the home crowd, and you probably know I came in with a lot of expectations, and I was battling with TJ the year previous, and he goes on to have a great senior season, and he was one of my buddies, and he really helped me along that process. But to take over the reins from him and play James Madison. And I said, I felt like a little kid in the backyard. It was kind of like you run out of the smoke and you got to pinch yourself. I'll never forget running out of smoke for the first time. And, when you jog on the field and they announce, hey, starting at quarterback is, and they say your name, it gives you goosebumps. And I really just played with, just the love of the game. I was like just, in heaven. I didn't care if I threw 4 picks. I didn't care if I completed every ball. I just wanted to go out and have fun. And I think I was really prepared because I was chomping at the bit for 2 years to try to get, a chance. And, when it finally came to fruition and we had a great game, Coach Shoup called great plays and we had a great game plan. And then when you look up and, you look at the stat sheet, you're 23 or 24, I can honestly tell you, Anthony, I didn't think about it one time. And I think that's what the coolest thing was until about the fourth quarter when you're going in, you're like, dang, I got something good going on here. And I remember, I think Aaron Rodgers played USC, and I'm a football junkie, so I'm going to remember this. And I was watching the ESPN Classic when I was young, and I think he has the record of, like almost a perfect game of quarterback rating. And I'll never forget, and you got to check me on this, I think it's Cal USC, and I don't know what year, but he was on fire. And this was right when he was coming out for the draft and things like that. And I think, I was watching the draft, and they kept showing highlights of that game, and I looked it up, and And I told you I'm a football junkie now, and I always wanted, to be perfect. And guys made great plays. I remember Dwight made a great catch over the middle on a dagger route, a deep end. And, guys made plays, and I think it was fun for that to be my first start. And, that to carry on, my rest of my career, it was a really, really fun game. And, I was from Virginia, and James Madison was always a school that was kind of on the rise, and I played a lot against my high school buddies that I played against. And, you look up at the stat sheet, and it was a pretty good game, so I was very, very fortunate.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to think that actually, Everett Withers, who was the coach in that game, went there and coached them actually that next year. So,
yeah, it's crazy.
So, moving on later in your career, your senior year, of course, ended with the injury. I think if you are a Tar Heel fan, even if you weren't, we all remember that press conference. Why was it so tough for you to have your career end that way?
Yeah, I think, the toughest thing, and I go back to this, it's about, your teammates, and you don't want to let them down. And you've been there for 5 years like I was, and you invest so much in the program, and you really have. It was almost like you just didn't want to let them down, because I've always been the guy to kind of be the leader and be the tough guy and play through injuries. And I don't know, that was my third labrum tear, and played on a broken ankle. I played with an MCL. I played with injuries and battled through it, and I guess I just didn't want to let the team down of not being the starting quarterback. And like I said, it's always a dream of yours to run out of the tunnel, and it finally sunk in. I know when I tore it, I knew it was out, and I think people have seen the video on YouTube, and people have sent me links and things like that. It tore me up, and then I came back in, tried to play, and completed my last pass to TJ Thorpe, which I'll never forget. I remember telling him, "Hey man, just get across the middle. I don't know if it's going to be anywhere close to you, but we got it there." It was like a 3rd and 5, and I threw it right on his chest, and I came out of the game, and I just knew something wasn't right. And I think to answer your question, putting all the effort you put in for 5 years, and to know, it's taken away from you when you least expect it, and you're playing a rival, and you've always been, pretty much unbreakable. Whatever was going on, the adversity outside the program never really affected you, because another Saturday was coming up, another workout was coming up. You were going to be able to be in a routine of being around your buddies, going to study hall, doing the same things they were doing, and then now you're on a different schedule. It kind of shocks you. And I think in that press conference, just to being the leader, I think the biggest thing I learned when Coach Davis recruited me was, hey, you're the CEO of the company, and you're the leader of this ship, and you gotta you're the general, and they kind of look to you for toughness. And I was a mental guy. I loved watching the film. I loved sitting down on Thursday meetings and going to O-line dinners with the guys. And, I think that's when it all came out, and when it hit me, when I walked out to practice, and, I wasn't out there, and everybody was kind of wondering where I was. Texted me, said, hey, we got a meeting here, and you're in the group text, and, you can't tell anybody until then. And then it all came out, and when everybody came over to kind of say, really appreciate you, I think, I still get emotional about it, because, Carolina means so much to me, and will always mean a lot to my family, and it just kind of hits you all at once. You don't really know at that age that it's over that quick, and I just had so much passion for the game, and every Saturday I gave it all I had.
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you, man, you didn't let any Tar Heel fans down, and that's amazing. You still went on to have an NFL career. The most memorable moment, I think, for everybody, probably even yourself, was the rollout winner in preseason with the Baltimore Ravens over the New Orleans Saints. So kind of walk us through that. I mean, we know as Tar Heel fans, for us, watching it was amazing, but at the same time, it seemed like it took you forever to get to the end zone, because you are not the most athletic runner. Let's admit that. Just kind of walk us through that and tell us, kind of what was going through your head at that moment.
Well, your statement about being the most unathletic runner is completely correct. When I went to Denver, it was a really good experience to be with Peyton, and I learned a ton. And then, I was there for a little bit, almost a year, and then, left there not knowing when Coach Fox got fired. I left there, and I didn't really have a path or a journey. So then, I went to work at a golf course. I love playing golf. And then, was waiting for a call and got a call in December right after I got cut. And then went up to Baltimore, and Gary Kubiak was the head coach. And people don't know this, Gary Kubiak was the offense coordinator, excuse me. And, he had ties with John Elway, obviously. And Elway called him and said, hey, you need to work this kid out. And they ended up signing me to a futures deal. And then, from that point on, I beat out a sixth rounder in Keith Winning. And I was still battling. And, I always, even at Carolina, I had a competitive mindset and things like that. But to go along with that play, we called a naked, and I wrote, we got the ball back. I threw a bad interception the drive before to kind of cost us the lead, and we got the ball back, and to drive down, we converted a 4th and 20 to Max Williams, where he got it, hurdled over a guy, and it seemed like everything was going right. And then Coach Mark Trestman, who's a long time NFL, just a great coach in his own right. I jog over to the sideline and he goes, hey, we're calling a rollout here. And I'm like, are you sure you just don't want to run it? We're on the 1 yard line. And he goes, call the rollout. We're calling the rollout. So then I check the play and we call the rollout. In the end, rushes upfield. We good play fake by the running back. And I swear it felt like I had 4 people on my back. And once I turned the corner, I was like, well, there's no looking back now. And I kind of just dove, and then it was all a blur after that. But it did take me a long, long time to get in that end zone. But if I didn't throw a pick, I don't know if that would have happened. So I guess it's a good thing.
Well, that's one of my favorite plays of your entire career. So that's awesome that Mark Trestman made that happen for us. So
absolutely.
I know there was a period of time you've done some stuff with broadcasting. Something that I'm really passionate about. You hosted the UNC Huddlecast with Matt Merletti, and you were even a guest host with Raycom Sports in the studio. So, what were those experiences like?
Well, they were unbelievable. I got my communications degree from Carolina, and it's always been a passion of mine to, eventually down the road, analyze football, talk about football, because I've always been around it. Like I said, I'm a football junkie, but I was really appreciative of those experiences, because in the off season, when you're still training, you kind of work on a side career, and I love ESPN. I love, just talking about the game. Wherever, if you give me a whiteboard and a dry erase marker, I can sit in there all day. And so, it was really good experience. I was around really good people that helped me do that. And I think Kevin Best, our SID that was at Carolina, now that works for the ACC, really helped me kind of develop that passion for it. And I've always loved being around the game and just talking the game. And it was good to kind of get on the field with Clinton Portis, who works for the Raycom ACC Digital Network, which I worked for. And those guys taught me. We filmed a lot. We critiqued, and I didn't know how much critiquing went on. You take a couple takes and you stutter a little bit, or you don't have your thoughts ready. It's just like football. You got to be prepared. So it was really cool. I worked the Florida State Duke game, and that was really cool in Charlotte when Florida State won it and Jameis was on his run. Got a chance to be around the players and get around that side of sports on the media side. And I've always had a lot of respect for the media because they have a tough job, and sometimes I'm always not the nicest guy to talk to about interceptions and stuff, but they got to do their job too. So it was really a cool experience to know that, you get at a young age, you get a chance to kind of develop a future career if that's where it's headed. So to get those experiences, I always cherish those and talk to those people and can never thank them enough.
Yeah, you see your passion for football, man, and now you are an assistant at Florida International under Coach Davis. You just said it. You had pro day yesterday and everything, so you're sort of getting into that coaching mindset. How do you like it so far? And then, I know you're going to want to talk about it. So talk about some of those players that you've got there that are really, special to you.
Yeah, once I got released by the Steelers in 2016, it was around the middle of the season, and I didn't really know what to do, so I went and took one of our quality control guys at North Carolina who really helped me, Wes Satterfield, who's now the offensive coordinator at Austin Peay. I was struggling because when you're done with the game and it's kind of your time to be done with it, it's kind of tough. You see Brett Favre, guy I idolized, who always kept coming back. It's tough to cope with the game of giving it up as a player. And, what's the next best thing? So I was sitting there and I was like, I got to get the football fixed. And so, I just got in my car and drove down there I was living in Charlotte at the time, and I just drove down there and ended up staying for the whole rest of the season with Austin Peay, and we ended up, not getting a win. We went 0-11, but it was the funnest time I've had because the kids really bought into the system, and it was Will Healy's first year. And I don't know if you know much about Austin Peay, but they actually went 8-4 this year and should have made the playoffs in division, in the FCS division.
Wow.
And they really turned the culture around. And getting that, I was working with the quarterbacks and working with the offenses, and I wasn't getting paid a dime. And they always say if you can do it for free, it's a passion of yours. And so it became a passion. And working with those young men and developing the culture that I had at Carolina. So I go back and lean on those Carolina roots of the conversation I had with A.J. Blue and saying, hey, A.J.'s a really, really good friend of mine. What's the next best thing? A.J. said, go coach, man. You got it in you. So being a leader of men and kind of dealing with the Carolina stuff and being a leader, I always wanted to be in charge of men and develop the culture because it was so much fun in Carolina. So I go to Austin Peay and do that, and it was awesome. So then Coach Davis, after our season's completed, I go back to Charlotte, and he's like, hey, what are you doing? And I was like, I texted him, a couple times back and forth, and I was like, Coach, I don't know what I want to do. Just thinking about real estate, thinking about a lot of things, and he goes, hey, come down here and let's get this thing rolling. And sure enough, I drove down in January 2nd, right after New Year's, and I haven't left since. And like you said, we developed a really core group of guys last year of our seniors that kind of were going through the same thing I did, and I could relate to them. And I think the biggest thing about coaching nowadays is you have to relate to the players, and you have to go through what they're going through. And there's no better example of the three coaches that we talked about in the previous question, dealing with that, dealing with adversity off the field and losing your coach your senior year. There's a lot of if-ands or what's going to happen. And I was able to relate to these 13 seniors that participated in Pro Day yesterday really, really well, and they bought in. And I was able to sit down with them and say, look, if you just buy into the culture and buy in and you develop your own kind of lingo, your own kind of way you want to play and how you want to run, because ultimately in college football, you control the wins and losses, at every level. And if you develop a culture of, hey, we're not going to quit, and these are our standards, and we're going to, on and off the field, we're going to abide by them, then you can have a heck of a time. And our guys really bought in. So last year was the third most wins in school history, going 8-5 and playing Temple in the Gasparilla Bowl in St. Pete. And getting those guys to the bowl game and seeing the joy on their face that I had every bowl game that we went to and every practice that they went to, and just had fun with the game. And I think that's what's great about sports, is you can develop that culture. But I really think the cornerstone was Alex Magoo, and he reminded me a lot of myself. He left as the all-time leading passer, and I don't want to toot my own horn, but I had a really good career, and it was kind of like we just hit it off. And so he did a really good job being the glue of the franchise and being the CEO. And I actually just got in the car and left the office, and I just met with them again. And so he's getting ready for his private workouts with his guys, and he really threw well. And a lot of our guys participated well yesterday, and I think that's gonna kind of carry the culture of FIU and what we're trying to build with Coach Davis.
Well, that's awesome, man, and we're gonna, of course, I think everybody's wishing your guys the best and all the success. The last question that we've got to get to, I've been asking this to all of the former players that I've interviewed. We heard Joel Berry say in a press conference earlier this year for basketball that he didn't really believe that NC State was a rival of ours. He kind of sees Duke as our only true rival. Being part of UNC Athletics, are you with him on this, or do you think that NC State is considered a rival for us?
Well, first off, I take my hat off to Joel. I've talked to him a couple times, and he had a heck of a career. Just a great player, and I really respect, his whole career and the adversity that he went through a little bit with the injuries and kind of just fighting through and really having a good 2 years. And, I watched his senior day speech when he talked about Coach Williams, and it was phenomenal. And that's what the Carolina culture, him and Theo, they're really, really class acts. But,
right.
As far as the rivalry, I think, and I compare it like this, Duke's a great rivalry in basketball. That's one of the best ever. It's Yankees, Red Sox, and then probably close second, Duke, Carolina. But I think for us, it was always NC State. Going on the road and playing them was the toughest environment I've ever been in a college game. We played at Clemson, played at Virginia Tech, played LSU in the Georgia Bowl. I've played in pretty big time games, even in the NFL. But that rivalry, it's kind of like, okay, Duke Carolina can have basketball, but you got to have NC State Carolina in football. I love playing Duke and trying to get the bell back, and we played them on a Thursday night. That one year, we came up a little bit short in that game, but it's a rivalry, but it means more when you beat State for sure. And so I probably would disagree with Joel and say that, the NC State Carolina rivalry in football is one of the best. And probably my favorite game of my career is the Geo punt return game. I'll never forget that one. And what doesn't go unnoticed, and I'm going to call Eric Ebron out, and I hope he listens to this, and you can tag him on whatever. He drops a ball, a little tunnel screen that he would have walked in and we would have won in regulation. So now he can thank, Gio can thank Eric for dropping that ball on the goal line, and he would have walked in and we would have won in regulation. Instead, we go to overtime, we win in regulation with Gio's punt return. So I always make fun of Ebron whenever I see him.
Well, I'm not speaking for everyone, but at this rate, man, we saw what happened. I don't think any of us would want to take that memory away. So thank you, Eric Ebron, for dropping the ball, man, because Gio that is unbelievable. Yeah, wow. So, hey, Bryn, this was awesome, man. This was just so fun. We're gonna have to have you back on, man. So definitely, we'll talk to you during the season. Do you try to keep up with Carolina at all? So.
Yeah, absolutely. I watch from afar now. Obviously, I'm trying to get our guys prepared for the game, and coaching is tough now. You got to be prepared at all times, and it's full throttle trying to get the kids prepared. But I watch from afar, and I will always bleed Carolina blue, but you are where your feet are. So my feet are always going to be, for right now in Miami here at FIU. But, I'll watch from afar, and I definitely keep up with them. And, I still talk to AJ a lot, and Jeff Schottmer just got a coaching position, a graduate assistant job there. He's a good friend of mine, and obviously Shaq's there too. And Quinshot Davis is on the staff as GA. So I talk to those guys, and they keep me informed. And, I talk to all of my teammates. We got group text, so I always get the inside scoop on Carolina, and I hope I always will, because it means a lot to me. But, my feet are here, and hopefully we can have a good season, and hopefully they can too.
All right, man. Hey, best of luck to you guys, and we'll talk to you down the line, all right?
Thanks, buddy. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you so much. You have a great day, okay?
Yes, sir.